I used to do this quite a bit. I haven't done it in a while, but I think I'm going to start doing it again. And welcome, by the way. Welcome to the As Above Academy chat room. My name is Ariana, and hello there, Quiverton Gatsby. I know who you are. So I used to do this. I'd done it at night, and I sporadically do it, but I think it's a nice practice. And and I think especially nowadays when I can feel like there's so much on top of the world that I'm in, maybe not so much on me, because I live a pretty blessed life, and I can find I complain about things sometimes. And if I look at my life, it really I have so much that's been given to me, so much I've created, and so of course you know the next word I'm going to say. It's not new. This is not a new idea. But gratitude. Like, how do I take a moment at any point in the day? It doesn't even have to be in the morning or at night, but make a practice of being grateful. And I have so many things to be grateful, and some of them seem really kind of like, first world gratefulness. But I am grateful. I'm grateful that I have a home that I'm living in, and I'm grateful that I'm sharing my life with my partner and my husband. And I'm grateful that I can indulge myself in the things that truly bring me joy. And I'm going to talk about a little bit about that today. Like, how do you find the things that light you up, that give you that sense of I want to get out of bed in the morning kind of feeling? How do you find that? Because sometimes it could just look like I just have to do these things. That there's like a lot of have tos and shoulds. So, taking a deep breath, kind of settling into this space, and enjoying this ritual that I have with my husband every morning. We have our homemade cappuccinos. We don't even have to go anywhere to get them. We actually prefer going to our place to get our cappuccinos because we have them exactly the way we want them. And it's like, how do you design a life that you can have more of the things that you really want in it than not? And I'm not saying I'm not doing things that, I prefer not to, but I have it balanced, or I'm balancing it. And every day it's a new challenge. I mean, sometimes I have to balance it, and I still don't make it out of that complaint mode. But I think the most important thing for me is to know that I can recreate it new at any moment. That's the other thing, too. I think as I was growing up, I carried a lot of like stuff from the past with me, and so if something had happened, I'd go, "Oops," like that's not going to work, and then I would kind of live it even though it was done. Like there's this really great little allegory story about two monks that have taken vows of silence and not being with other people. They'll accept alms, like things to so that they can survive, but they're not interacting with the outside world. And they're walking back home from a meeting in the village, having gone through the village. And on their way back, they hit a bank of water. It's like a little river. They have to, a stream, not too big, but they have to cross it. And they would get wet if they crossed it. And there's a woman there, and she's standing at the edge of the bank, and you can see that she doesn't want to cross it and get wet. And so she might have even asked, I'm not sure, you can look this up. She might have asked, can you help me cross the river? And the monks look at each other, and one of the monks goes, like with his eyes, of course not. We're not supposed to, interact with people outside of our order. And the other monk immediately motions for her to get onto his back, lifts her on the back, and then both the monks and the woman cross the river stream. And then he lets the woman down on the other side. She goes off his way, and the two monks continue back to their own little village. And the one monk who basically, said, I'm not doing that. That's against our rules. He looks at his friend and says, how could you break our rules? How could you do that? We were told we weren't allowed to do X, Y, and Z. And they've been walking for a little while, so finally, his friend is opening up and saying, that he's upset with his other friend. And the friend looks at him, the one who carried the woman, and says to him, just very calmly, he says, I let that woman off at the other side of the river, the bank of the river. Why are you still carrying her? And I'm telling you, that has stuck with me for my entire time since I've understood that. Whenever I look at indulging in the past, either in a negative kind of critical way about myself, oh, I lost that job, or I did that thing, or I hurt that person's feelings, I get to think now, why am I still carrying that with me? Now, there might be some unfinished business, right? Maybe I need to apologize to somebody from 10 years ago. I mean, there is some healing in that for yourself and possibly for the person, although they probably moved on and don't even remember what you said or did. But there is some real healing, I think, in being here in the moment now, being present to now, being grateful for what you have now. And that doesn't mean it will erase challenges. Challenges are going to be there. That's actually the beauty of life. If you can have the challenges be, though, at a level that you can tolerate them and then possibly even evolve them, right, on how you hold them and how they might even occur in your life, right? I've known of people that have lived really stressful lives, but they changed the way they thought about those events, and somehow the events just kind of smoothed out. I don't know what the magic is in that. I've noticed that a little bit for myself. But I think it's because something happens, right? A thing happens, and then we look at it and say something about it. And usually that's an addition. Like we add something to the thing that just happened. We add our emotional response to it. We add our opinion about it. We add that's a good or bad thing that shouldn't or should have happened. And I think that the power for me, and I can't speak for anyone else, but the power for me is to, yeah, I can have my opinion about something that happens, but just acknowledge that's what that is. It's just an opinion. And I'm not going to say out loud what a common phrase about what it means to have an opinion, but I think many of you might know it. It's something that everyone has, right? And having the ability, and it's a practice, by the way. I'm not a master at it. You know, there's these stages of mastery. I love them. The first one is you don't even know you're not a master of anything, but you're kind of like, kind of a happy idiot. And then you recognize you want to learn about something and you're really excited about it. And you go, I want to know about butterflies. I'm going to use that as an example because I was kind of in this stage with butterflies. I wanted to know more about butterflies, and I wanted to even raise them. I remember something in school once when we had like little caterpillars, and the caterpillars were in a net, and then they turned into butterflies, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. And so, you know, what do you do when you're at that stage where you are interested in, and excited about something, but you know nothing about it? And so I think that, I don't know if I was excited about learning to not have my past run me, but I think at one point I got super curious about it. Like, what would my life look like if I wasn't suffering around what had happened? And it was no longer even happening, but it was happening in my mind. And so in my life, I would see it in places and it would kind of be reenacted again and again and again. And so that first stage where you're curious and you're excited about wanting to learn something, that's a wonderfully innocent and beautiful time, because you're willing to just go, don't know, let's find out. And then there's this next stage, because you get into the activities. You look up about butterflies. You go to a place that has butterflies. You find out a friend who's raising butterflies. Yes, exactly. It's the beginner's mind. And if you find your beginner's mind excited about something, indulge it. That's what I'm going to say. Indulge it. Because you just don't know. You know, a year from now, you may not care about that. But if you had indulged it, you don't know the path you would have created for yourself. So the next stage is this conscious incompetence. That's that mastery stage. There's four levels that I'm aware of. And in that stage, you're doing what it takes. You know you don't know, and you're going to find out. You're going to practice, like if it's an instrument, you want to learn how to play an instrument. You're going to read more information. Maybe it's like building something. You're going to have to practice it also. Like you have to keep doing it every day or however often you need to do it. Because in that, you start to develop skills. So when you're consciously incompetent, you don't know. And you also know I could learn. And let's see if I can master if I can get some skill in doing these next things, if I can remember the things I need to do, if I can practice them enough so that it becomes less of I have to focus on it. And then there is consciously competent. That's that third stage where you've done it enough times that it's kind of in your bones. Like when I learned to play piano at a young age, in the beginning it was hard. I didn't know where the notes were. I didn't understand what I was reading. It's like, and I had to practice. But in the consciously competent stage, I started to have some skills. And it's that point too, for me, that I recognize the stage between consciously incompetent and consciously competent. If I had quit in consciously incompetent because it was too hard, it felt bad, I didn't feel good sitting at the piano, or with my monarchs, they kept dying. It's like I would have probably said, I don't need to do this. I did that with scuba diving, by the way. My husband, much to his chagrin, he loved scuba diving, and I had too many claustrophobia things that happened to me. I didn't want to be in the wetsuit. I didn't want to take my mask off, practice like losing those things, which is, critical to survival. You got to practice, right? And so at that stage of conscious competence, it's a long period of time. Usually, I've heard the thing says 10,000 hours to become a master at something. So you have to do something for 10,000 hours. That's a long time. I don't know how many years that is. And maybe that can be true for some because there are prodigies, people that take to something sooner and faster or have a natural knack. I bet it must feel really good to discover that in yourself. And then the last stage, or the stage where you have reached this it's unconscious competence. It's like a mastery level. You do it kind of through your bones. You don't have to think of it. Beautiful. All, I think, successful musicians, or musicians in general, have practiced for a while, they can do that kind of playing of an instrument or singing a song at that level. It's in their soul. They don't need the notes anymore. The instrument, they're one with the instrument. In the case of raising monarchs, I get to see their life cycle, and I get to acknowledge the stages that I know will be successful for them and the stages that I know won't. And that I can be with both, because there's beauty in all layers of living a life. You hope it's going to be as long as that nature allows you to live it. And it isn't always the case. I've had a lot of experience with that with the monarchs. And so those levels of competency, I think what they do is they give you permission to say yes to something that you can have for yourself for the rest of your life. And so I also wanted to speak to something about that, because is it a hobby? Can you make a profession out of it? Can you do a little of both? And there's that saying, if you do what you love, do what you love and the money will follow. I had a kind of an insight into that saying, because that is one side effect you can get from doing things that you love. You can create income from it. And that seems to be the biggest focus that people mostly have, because it's really important to have money in your life, because right now, as we live in this society, that's the thing that gives you permission to have a lot of things and opportunities in life. And also, at the basic level of survival, right? And we're seeing a lot of that being challenged these days for many people who kind of took it for granted. What if, though, if you did what you loved, found what you loved, and there might be more than one thing. I would hope that you'd be able to discover several things if you're willing to take the risk and be curious, right? Because it takes a little time to discover, is this something I would love to do, have in my life, for the rest of my life? if you could find what you love and do that, have that in your life, have it be a part of your daily experience or weekly or monthly or whatever, however that activity shows up for you. What if the side effects, side benefits, were also something other than possibly an income stream? What if they were like joy? What if they were like connections, new friends? What if it was waking up in the morning and wanting to get out of bed? I remember that time period in my life. I was much younger then. I just remember going, I don't want to sleep anymore. I want to get out of bed. Also at a time when I wanted to sleep more because I loved my dreams. So that's a whole nother conversation. And so what if you found things in your life that you loved doing and being with and having? And what if those things brought you to other opportunities? And some of them might look like an income stream. That's cool, Don't stop looking for that one. And don't miss out on the other things that those opportunities might bring you, like making new friends. I have found that has been something for me that I think I've taken for granted. Oh yeah, how many hours? I think it's 10,000 hours. Yeah. And that's a good point. Are you going to trust doing something for 10,000 hours, 10,000 times? A dozen years, half a dozen years. What is 10,000 hours? I don't even know how many years that might look like. I don't think you would crunch them all in one 24-hour period. Probably like an hour a day, right? What if you did an hour a day for 10,000 hours? Someone else do the math. That's not my, it's not where I excel. It's not what I love. Although I appreciate math. My dad was heavily into numbers, and yeah. And so what if the things you did that you found joy and passion in brought you so many gifts, not just one, but many gifts. And sometimes, I know for myself, I've been blind to gifts. Sometimes I've only known the gifts after they were gone, and I looked backwards where I am now looking at, wow, I had that gift, and I didn't even appreciate it. Like I lived in New York City for several years. That was the first place I moved to when I left my family home in New Jersey. Finished college and then moved into New York City. It was exciting. Had a really cool place right on Park Avenue South, 21st and Park Avenue South, in a little loft apartment building. It was really cool. And I don't think I really, when I look back on that now, I loved being there. I appreciated that I had, the ability to afford an apartment those days and to, enjoy the New York lifestyle. But I don't think I really understood what I had. I look back on that now. I do have some wonderful things I can be grateful for now, though. The house I live in, a big house. I have all the things that I care about around me. My 4 cats. We have 4 cats. I used to be with a rescue. I'll tell you the side effect of loving animals and being a volunteer to rescue is you might have more cats or animals than you thought you might normally have. Like someone would call me a cat lady. And I'm fine. I actually am that in my heart, I think. So, find what you love. Practice it a little bit, and then allow yourself to say, what else am I getting from doing this? I've made some new friends with my Monarch project. New people I never would have met. Never. And I think one of the biggest things with finding the things you love to do, it indulges you sufficiently that you'll do it enough times that you'll start to find other people that are doing it too. And so it opens up the doors to connection of communities, new communities that you might never have crossed on purpose before. So today I'm going to do for myself, and I invite you to do for yourself. What is it that you enjoy doing? It could be small. It could be something super, super small. I enjoy going out on our deck and looking at all of the potential plants that I have, seeing how the health of my plants are, and noticing where there might be little monarchs. And by the way, I have like over a dozen chrysalises and maybe a dozen monarchs somewhere, little caterpillars somewhere walking around on the plants that I have here. And so this morning I had a little beautiful girl. She was like beautiful, just perfect. And she's sitting here and she's drying now on a leaf with her wings going in and out like this. And she's going to go off into the world and have her spectacularly, from my opinion, short life. So I think their extension of their life is they're a caterpillar for like 4 weeks at the most. I've noticed mine are 4 weeks because it's cold here. They don't grow as quickly. And then 2 weeks to 3 weeks maybe as a butterfly. That's how short their life is. But that's their life, right? And so their whole purpose is to go through their stages and hopefully get to the point where they become that butterfly and they can expand into the world. I have a whole conversation and chat about monarchs and raising monarchs. Those are one of my things I love, and I would like to let as many people know they can do that at their home and with pretty much low maintenance. Just get the plants that the caterpillars eat and get the plants that the butterflies love. And if you love flowers and you love nature, totally simple. Well, this has been a real joy today. Thank you for joining me. Why don't we take a moment and just give ourselves permission to be in this space. I'm going to take a deep breath. I invite you to do the same. Hold it for just a few seconds at the top. Let all that oxygen go into your bloodstream and wherever else it goes in your body. And then very slowly exhale. Exhale longer than the inhale. Pause at the bottom. Just be with neither in nor out of breath. It's kind of fun. And then take another deep breath. Hold it at the top. And exhale. And one more time. Don't close your eyes if you're in a car driving. And by the way, you can do this with eyes open and eyes closed. And you can do it as often as you want during the day. So, as I've said in the past, dream here, now.